This past weekend, Wave Champions 6 went down in Japan, the final event in the lead up to the Wave Champions Invitational? Is it an invitational? Anyways, if you're not familiar with the Wave Champions series, I've been covering the last 2 iterations of it on the channel. Basically, it's a tournament series where the winners of each of the tourneys are later invited to take part in a large 33-player final tournament to decide the conclusive Wave Champion. Now, you might be saying, but Rister, you said there's only been 6 tournaments. How are there 33 entrants? Well, that's because now that the final Wave Champions has wrapped up, players who made top 8 or otherwise performed well at a Wave Champions tournament were also invited to compete. But before we go over that extensive list, we have to cover the last Wave Champions and the 5 things you should know from this tournament. And yes, I know it's Friday, but I'm not doing a top 8 recap today because I'm actually going to be leaving in a few hours from now to attend Honeypot 6 Winter is Coming. If you're also going to that tournament, come find me and say hi. I'd love to meet some fans of the channel for my first out-of-state Smash tournament. Alright, before we begin, just a reminder that if you want to support me monetarily, links to my Patreon and channel memberships are in the description below. With that out of the way, let's get started. Number 5. Nearly every top 8 seed gets upset. The most notable thing by far from Wave Champions 6 was how, of the top 8 seeds, only 2 of them actually managed to make top 8. But what happened to the other 6? For our first spot today, I've just decided to go over the fate of every single one of them right here and now. The 8th seed, Takara, lost his second set of the tourney, losing a close Game 5 versus ZSS main Nanchan. Takara then won his next set, defeating 11-3-0 to make it into top 32. However, once here, Takara would lose in a 3-1 loss to Akakikusu, going 2-2 and placing 25th as the 8th seed. The 7th seed, Motsunabe, just like Takara, lost his second set of the weekend, losing 3-1 to Ryu main Munikin, dropping into losers and making top 32 by defeating Emo 3-0. However, once in top 32, Motsunabe would defeat Marcos 3-0 before losing a Game 5 set to Yamanaction, who was also in losers, for a final placement of 17th as the 7th seed. The 6th seed, Toriguri, actually made top 8, so let's skip him for now. The 5th seed, Hedo, actually didn't lose in pools, making top 32 from winner's side. However, once here, Hedo lost in a 3-1 set to Yoshimane Fui, who we will be talking lots about later on. Hedo then dropped into losers, where he defeated Futuri no Kiyomi A 3-1 before losing to Akakikusu 3-0 for a final placement of 13th as the 5th seed. This is the second of our top 8 seeds that hero main Akakikusu has defeated. And we're not done. The 4th seed, Jagaimo, similarly was able to make top 32 from winner's side, but unfortunately would lose to Kept 3-0, dropping into losers and then getting defeated by, guess who? That's right, it was Akakikusu again. Might as well just call the number 5 spot how Akakikusu defeated all of our top 8 seeds. Either way, Jagaimo was eliminated. And by the way, in case you're wondering, Akakikusu didn't even make top 8, losing 3-1 to Terry main JY in the losers top 8 qualifier after defeating 3 of the top 8 seeds in a row. I cannot find the words to describe how tragic this is, in my opinion. Like, wow. Anyways, the 3rd seed, Yamanaction, made it to top 32 winners, but then would lose 3-1 in his first set versus Uame, dropping into losers and defeating Motsunabe in a Game 5 set like we mentioned earlier, before losing to Peach main Ike in one more Game 5 set, being eliminated. Since the 1st seed, Ken, did make top 8, the last player we have left to cover is Kameme, the 2nd seed. And if you were paying very close attention during that last section on Yamanaction, you might already know how Kameme's run ends. Kameme lost his second set of the weekend, losing 3-0 in pools to Kazuya main Setsu, dropping into losers where Kameme defeated X4TA, who, by the way, lost Game 5 to Leaf and then 3-0 to Kameme to drown in pools. That's another moment that truly just leaves me with no words. Poor dude. Either way, Kameme entered top 32 from losers, where he defeated Yuzu 3-1 before losing in another upset loss to Ike in a 3-0, being eliminated at 17th as the 2nd seed. Oh, and by the way, if you're wondering, Ike didn't make top 8 either, losing in a close Game 5 set to Kept in the losers top 8 qualifier after having defeated Kameme and Yamanaction back-to-back. I mean, wow. Let's just move on before I lose my ability to speak. Number 4. Toriguri's insane losers run. So, you know how in the previous segment I said that Toriguri was able to make top 8, so we just skipped him? Well, I didn't lie necessarily, I just didn't tell you the whole truth. This is because Toriguri, like so many of the other top 8 seeds, lost in pools, technically losing his very first set of the tournament, losing in a close Game 5 set to Terry main JY. After this, Toriguri defeated Papapia to make it into top 32 losers side, where he defeated Goryoka, who was also in losers, 3-1, and next defeating Setsu 3-0 before going on to best Munikin and Noi, both in 3-1 victories to make it into top 8 losers side, where Toriguri would lose in a close Game 5 reverse 3-0 to Kept, for a final placement of 7th as the 6th seed after having lost his first set of the entire weekend. しまったところから小ジャンプ揺さぶってワンダーウィング撃墜にこそ至りませんが効果砲火が溜まってこの展開は願ったり叶ったり逆転のためのお膳立ては整った。さあここで空中しろまだ撃墜には至らない鳥のくちばしが突き刺さりますが最後は自らの腕力で押し切っていきました。 Number 3 JY's crazy upsets. We mentioned JY briefly in our number 5 spot, but he deserves a section all unto himself. Coming into the event as the 27th seed, JY started off the weekend by defeating Alpha 3-0 and Toriguri in a Game 5 set to make it into top 32 winners side, where JY defeated Ike in a Game 5 set before moving on into winners quarters and losing to Uame in another Game 5, dropping down into losers and defeating Akakikusu 3-1 to make top 8. From here, JY defeated Tet in yet another Game 5 set before having one more Game 5, this time in losers quarters versus Yoshimane Fui, but unfortunately losing the critical Game 5 for a final placement of 5th as the 27th seed. Number 2. Uame's Breakout Run. Uame is a name that has always been on the fringe of Japanese Smash, placing 9th and 13th at a lot of tournaments that I've covered, but Uame truly had a breakout performance here at Wave Champion 6. Coming into the event as the 14th seed, Uame started off the weekend by defeating Hororo 3-0 and Kamisuke 3-1 to make top 32 from winner's side. Once here, Uame defeated Yaman Action 3-1 and lastly JY to make it into top 8 winner's side. Now in top 8, Uame first got a win on Leaf, defeating the Robin 3-0 and making it into winners finals, where Uame would lose against Ken 3-0, dropping into losers finals and unfortunately losing versus Yoshimane Fui 3-0 for a final placement of 3rd as the 14th seed. Before we get into our number 1 spot, let's go over some honorable mentions. Leaf places 5th as the 18th seed, getting wins over Setsu and Kono Kururu 3-1, as well as X4TA and Futuri no Kiyomi-A in Game 5s, getting yet another big top 8 with Solo Robin. Tet, a pit main, places 7th as the 17th seed, getting wins on Reno in a Game 5, Kono Kururu 3-0, and Yuzu 3-0. Kept places 4th as the 13th seed, defeating Jagaimo 3-0, Ike 3-2, Lai 3-1, as well as Toriguri and Leaf, both in Game 5 sets. Akakikusu places 9th as the 10th seed, racking up wins on Takara 3-1, Jagaimo 3-0, Emo 3-1, and Hedo 3-0, after having lost to Kono Kururu in pools. Speaking of which, Kono Kururu places 9th as the 23rd seed after defeating Jin, Munikin, and the aforementioned Akakikusu, all in 3-0 victories and all with solo Kirby. And lastly, Ike places 9th as the 22nd seed after defeating Reno as well as Kameme, both in 3-0s, as well as defeating Yaman Action in a Game 5 set. Number 1. The last Wave Champion. Grand Final saw the first seed of the entire event, Ken, make it to Grands through winner's side. As the only top 8 seed that didn't get upset in either pools or top 32, Ken made top 8 by defeating Tet and Noi 3-1, moving into winner's semis and defeating Yoshimane Fui 3-1, before lastly defeating Uame 3-0 to make Grands winner's side. Ken's opponent would be someone he had already defeated, the Yoshimane I've mentioned nearly 10 times already, Fui. I told you we'd get to him eventually. Fui is the breakout star of Wave Champion 6, who came into the event as the 21st seed, first getting out of pools by defeating Goryoka in a 3-1. But Fui wasn't done, as he next went into top 32 and defeated Hero and Kept, both in 3-1s, making it into top 8 from winner's side. Of course, once here, Fui would lose to Ken 3-1, dropping into losers. And once there, Fui defeated JY and Kept, both in close Game 5 sets to make it into losers finals, where Fui defeated Uame 3-0 to make it back up into grand finals through losers side. And in grands, Fui managed to reset the bracket, winning the first set in the Game 5. However, unfortunately, in the reset, Fui would lose to Ken 3-1, being eliminated at second place as the 21st seed, and with Ken becoming your champion of the last Wave Champions tournament before the final. And with a tournament as exciting as this one, I'm sure we're all very excited to see what the Wave Champions final will look like.
ピンを使って避け切る空中で着地狩りまだ終わらない火力をどこまで伸ばせるかどうか157ここで掴みが通って後ろ投げ外側に飛ばせてさあケンソニックどこで勝負を決めきるかこの崖横強蹴り飛ばした
But I don't have to keep you in too much suspense. Recently, the Wave Champions Twitter announced their roster of 33 players who will be attending the final Wave Champions tournament. Those players, who were ordered by their overall ranking based on placements at every Wave Champions tournament, are Ken, Jagaimo, Toriguri, Neo, Shuton, Omowatsu, Yuzu, Yamanaction, Chicken, Umeki, Motsunabe, Leaf, Taike, Kept, Masa, Fui, Goryoka, Takara, Kamisuke, Setsu, Ike, Uame, Akakikusu, Futari no Kyomi A, Rimu, Noe, I'm, Kyu, Konokururu, Rain, Tet, Yoshi, and lastly, JY. Now, it's actually unclear whether or not Ken is going to be able to attend, but the answer is probably not, as it seems to overlap with Watch the Throne, which, if you didn't know, Ken qualified for with his placement at Port Priority 8. The other main thing is that, for a while, it seemed like Omowatsu wouldn't be able to go, given the fact that he had retired after his drama with Umeki. But Omowatsu and Umeki have actually recently made up, and Omowatsu is returning to online and offline competing, and if I understand correctly, is already ranked 2nd on Smashmate. So yeah, that's good. But when this tournament happens, you better believe I'll be there to cover it. I mean, I've covered the last 3 of these tournaments. I'm invested now in who wins this. And in my opinion, if Ken doesn't go, I think the winner could genuinely be almost anyone in the top 20 or so players I just mentioned. Either way, I'll be here to cover it, and I hope you are all as excited as I am to see it. That's going to be it for today's video. Before I go, shout out to my patrons, that's Laster, Farsco333, and my tier 2 patrons, Iltis and Diamond Blaze. Additionally, shout out my YouTube members Stormtrooper, Loco Soco, Watoon, Diarrhea, Dicho Jr., Defective, Orangabang, and my tier 2 members Mike G and Wu-Tang Forever. Additionally, an extra special shout out goes to my tier 3 patron Ocean Man, who says, Rister Mice is sorry for playing Min Min. If you want to support me using any of these methods, links are in the description below. Don't miss the shorts I'm making over the weekend, but I'm not sure I'll be able to do any streams over the weekend since I'll be away at Honeypot 6. We'll see. Either way, I've been Rister Mice, and thank you all so much for watching.